Then he came off the moors under towering mist, Grendel creeping, bearing God's ire. The wicked harmer intended to snatch up some human in that high hall. He came under heavy skies until he readily perceived the wine house, the golden hall of humanity, spangled with treasure. Nor was this the first time that he had come seeking Hrothgar's home. But never in his life days, before or since, would he ever find harder fortune or hall thanes. Then he came to the hall, a warrior questing, deprived of joys. The door suddenly sprang open, fixed with fire-forged bonds after he had touched it with his hands. Then the battle-minded slithered through the hall mouth, swollen with rage. Quickly after that, the fiend stepped inside onto the paved floor, moving maddened in mind. From his eyes there stood an unlovely light, very much like a flame. He saw there in the hall many warriors, a kindred company sleeping gathered together, a band of bound men. Then his mind laughed, that terrifying monster, intending to tear every one of them asunder before the day arrived, the lives from their bodies. Hopes of a stuffed belly filled him. But that wasn't how it would turn out, that he would be allowed any longer to devour through the dark night the kindred of men. Surpassingly powerful, one man watched him, the kinsman of Higelac, seeing how the evil harmer wished to proceed with his fearful talent. Nor did that monster think to delay, but he swiftly snatched up, from the very first moment, a sleeping warrior, and he eviscerated its, biting into his bone locks, drinking blood from his veins, swallowing him up in gluttonous gobbets. Immediately he had chewed up the unliving entirely, feet and hands. Nearer forth he stepped inside, grabbing in his claws the mighty-minded warrior at his rest, the fiend stretching out towards him with his hands. Beowulf seized him at once with malicious purpose, setting himself against his arm. Immediately, that keeper of crimes realized that never, in all of Middle-earth or its distant corners, in any human had he met a greater hand-grip. He became fearful at heart, in his very soul. He couldn't get away from this one soon enough. His mind was eager to be gone, wishing to flee into the night, to seek the haunts of devils. Nor was this a condition such as he had ever before encountered during the days of his life. Then the good man, Higelac's kin, was mindful of his evening speech, stood upright, and he locked down on him fast, fingers bursting. The giant monster was moving outside. The nobleman stepped with him. The notorious thing wanted to get far away, wherever he could, thenceward on the way, fleeing into the fen fastness. He knew control of his fingers was grabbed in a grim grip. That was the most grievous journey the Harmseeker had taken to Herod. The company hauled din, for all the Danes, for the city dwellers, for every one of the keen. There was a horrifying serving of ale. They were both angry, ruthless and terrible opponents. The building echoed. It was a great wonder that the wine hall resisted the battle brave, that it did not just fall to the earth. That house lovely yet mortal, but it was fastened within and without with iron bands, smithied with crafty thoughts. There from the floor was buckled many a mead bench, as I have heard, made beautiful with gold, where the combatants struggled. Until this moment, shielding wise men never believed that any man could ever have the means, excellent though bound in bone, to break it apart, tear it down by a talent, unless the embrace of flame should swallow it in its swaths. A voice clamored forth, utterly unheard of. A thrilling horror stood within the North Danes. Everyone alone who heard the wailing keen from the walls. The opponent of God singing his keening terror. A chant without victory, bemoaning his pain, the hostage of hell. He held him tightly, the one who was the strongest in power of all men back in the days of that age. That shelter of heroes didn't wish to allow his fatal visitor to escape alive for anything, nor could he account much use of Grendel's life days to any people. There the Thanes of Beowulf most rapidly drew their elder blades, wishing to protect the life of their gracious lord, their renowned chief, where they so could. They did not know one fact when they entered the fray. battle kin with hardened hearts, thinking to chop at Grendel from every side, seeking his soul. That no battle blade, none of the choicest iron upon the earth, would wish to bite that sinful Shather, for he had bewitched the bane from triumphant weaponry, from every sword edge. Yet his life-leaving must be miserable on this day in the world, and that estranged spirit must ferry forth into the keeping of fiends. Then he discovered, he who had previously perpetrated much offense, much affliction to the hearts of mankind, guilty against God. He discovered that his body home did not wish to endure, that the mindful kinsmen of Higelac kept him by the hand. Each was hateful to the other while he lived. The terrifying monster knew a bodily wound, a gaping mortal-making wound opened in his shoulder. The sinews sprung apart, the bone locks burst open. War glory was given to Beowulf. From there, Grendel must fly away, sick to life, under the fen fastness, joylessly seeking his lair. He knew too well that his life was coming to its conclusion, the count of his days. The desire of every Dane came true after that slaughtering battle. Then he had cleansed the hall of Hrothgar, he who had recently come from afar, wise and mighty souled, preserving it against malice. He rejoiced in the knight's work, in his courageous glory. The Geatish champion had matched his boasts to the East Danes. Likewise he had amended every malady, the wicked sorrows that they had suffered before, and out of terrible constraint they had to endure no fear miseries. It was a patent token. After the battle bold had put up that hand, arm, shoulder, and all, everything attached, Grendel's grasping, under the steep roof.